Kislev are a people dedicated to keeping the world safe from chaos. This makes them into the wall upon which all manner of demons throw themselves at, with the hopes of a chance of breaking through. Alongside this, they are a deeply political people, with a fight for the throne and the future of Kislev taking place throughout the campaign, and rewarding the faction that takes the lead. They also have a unique approach to infrastructure, with all but 3 settlements in the motherland only being able to reach size 3, meaning you must choose your buildings carefully to get the most out of each one. Let's first go over the pros and cons of the faction's campaign gameplay. First of all, the pros. Kislev lands are fairly defensible since demons can only get in and out via mountain passes, making natural choke points very easy to defend. The invocations of the motherland provide powerful bonuses, and eventually you'll be able to have them running pretty much constantly to fit any situation. And finally, Atamans, which allow you to maintain provinces a lot easier and optimize them for whatever it is you need from them. As for the cons, the initial race for supporters can be a hassle and put you under pressure to take risks more than you normally would to ensure you beat your rival to each milestone. The Ice Court also does cost more than standard heroes, as well as them taking more time to get recruited, meaning if you lose them, that's a lot of investment that's gone straight down the drain. Most of the time you'll end up with all of Kislev under your control, which can be a lot to manage and make it difficult to keep all of your lands safe and demon free, especially in the late game. Kislev won the few factions with multiple legendary lords on launch. They have 3 factions to choose from. The first is the Ice Court. It is led by Cyrene Katerin, and for faction effects, they are granted 10 devotion from successful Frost Maiden hero actions, 6 control, 3 recruit rank for Frost Maidens, and -2 turns to Ice Court training. As for a lord effects, she grants -6 corruption, -50% upkeep for Ice Guard, and -50% to base miscast chance. Her starting location is of course Kislev, and her starting units are 2 armoured Cossars with great weapons, 1 regular armoured Cossars, 2 Ice Guard with swords, winged lancers, and a snow leopard. As for their climate preferences, frozen, mountain, and temperate are suitable, wasteland, temperate island, savanna, and jungle are unpleasant, and magical forest, ocean, chaotic wasteland, and desert are uninhabitable. For the Ice Court, the starting war takes you east and then north, and will secure you your first province as well as Prague if you finish them off. After this, you can start to ally with the remaining Kislev factions and build them towards confederation over your campaign. Alternatively, you can choose to take control of Kislev by force if you wish, but that's your choice. If you're not doing this, then you'll instead expand further east into the mountains, taking on the greenskins, vampire counts, and rats in that direction. I would say to stay in suitable lands, since taking on any less than this can be a real pain to control later on. I would also steer clear of the northern coastline through the mountains, as it becomes very hard to stay in control once Nurgle and the other Chaos factions start to come down to visit. Besides, once you're in control of Kislev, that's more than enough land to easily win your campaign. The next faction is the Great Orthodoxy, and this is of course led by Kostaltin. For his faction effects, he has -40 diplomatic relations with the Ice Court, 10 devotion gained from successful Patriarch hero actions, 20% ward save for embedded Patriarchs, and +5 leadership and melee attack for Cossars, Kossovite dervishes, and horse archer units. For his lord effects, he has -2 to his wound recovery time, and frenzy for all units in his army. His starting location is Castle Alexandrinov, and for his starting army, he gains 2 Kossar spears, 4 Kossars, some Kossovite dervishes, horse archers, and an elemental bear. He has the exact same climate preferences as Katerin, and as for his expansion options, his starting war will take you north to secure your starting province fairly quickly. Once this is done, you can head east to take on Throt and Katerin directly if you feel so inclined. Otherwise, your only bet that doesn't involve battling other Kislev factions is heading to the west into the Norskans and the Demons of Chaos lands. If you move on them quickly, they shouldn't be able to get much of a roll going on, so you can take them out without too much trouble. While doing this, you want to rush grinding supporters and allying with the other Kislev factions as quickly as possible to confederate them and take control of Kislev as quickly as possible, as they will be your most defendable and profitable lands. And our final Kislev faction is the Ursine Revivalists. These are led by Boris Ursus, and this faction actually needs unlocking in a separate Kislev campaign. So when playing as either the other 2 Kislev factions, occupy Kislev, Prague, and Erengrad at the same time for 10 turns. After this, a quest will pop up, and upon completion will allow you to recruit Boris right into your faction, or gift him one of these 3 cities. No matter what you choose, the next time you go to start a Kislev campaign, he will be unlocked. As for Boris's faction effects, he gains 30 relations with the Ice Court, -50% construction cost for garrison and religious buildings, -1 construction time for province capital and settlement buildings, and +2 recruit rank for Warbear Rider units. As for his lord effects, he grants -50% upkeep for Warbear Rider units, and +7 leadership and 9 melee attack when fighting Warriors of Chaos, Demons of Chaos, and Norska. His starting location is Fort Dorsney Vort. His starting army gains Kossar spears, 2 Kossars, 2 Warbear Riders, and a little Grom. His climate preferences are just a little bit different to the other 2, with Wasteland now being suitable and Chaotic Wasteland now being unpleasant. The starting war with Boris will take you to the northeast to capture your starting province. You can continue to pressure the Greenskins and expand further east to the coastline, taking out all the Greenskins you meet. After this, you can head north into the Ogre lands, all the way up to Cathay if you wish. You could also head west towards Kislev and make your way through the Orcs, Rats and Greenskins you find there. And finally, you could also head straight north into Ogre lands and eventually take the fight to Chaos on their doorstep with Nurgle and Tzeentch not too far away. Now we come to the Kislev faction mechanics. First up we have Devotion and Supporters, so these two mechanics are linked, but for ease of explanation I'm going to go over them one at a time. So Devotion is a currency gained via various actions such as buildings, characters, events, hero actions, fighting chaos, technology and post-battle captives. It is then spent on many things in the faction, such as certain buildings, events and technology, as well as invoking the Motherland. Invoking the Motherland gives you the choice of dedicating yourself to one of the 4 gods of Kislev for a short time, and each one provides bonuses to the faction for different situations. Salyak provides growth and casualty replenishment rate, which can be useful if you just finished taking over some settlements. It also allows you to gain supporters every time a character levels up. Dars provides income from buildings and trade, so it's great to have on in the background at all time to increase your income passively. It also provides supporters every time a building is built. Ursine provides attrition for all hostile armies in your lands, alongside the Bitters of Winter army ability, which is obviously for when you are defending your lands, and it also provides supporters whenever you occupy a settlement. And Tor provides the Wrath of the Bear army ability, alongside 5% melee attack for all armies, which is useful when taking on enemies in battle, and great when in the Chaos Realm. And it also provides supporters whenever you fight a battle. Now these supports can also be gained via buildings, events and fighting chaos. They fill up a bar and Katerin and Kastaltin are racing to fill it first. At each tier, the faction that hits it receives bonuses, and upon reaching the max, the player confederates the loser's faction. And obviously, you can't be confederated yourself if you get beaten by the AI. You can also spend gold or devotion to put your opponent back and give you an edge, but so can they, so be careful of doing this. It's also worth noting that Boris doesn't get involved in this directly, but can choose to support either of the two factions to push whoever he allies to victory, although can't really see much reason to do this. The next mechanic is Atamans. Atamans are unlocked for every 2 provinces you own, and they basically act as governors, stationed to provide various effects to the local area. Upon recruitment, they have a chance to affect income, control, growth and corruption, but as time goes on, you can make choices to unlock some other effects. These are things such as recruit rank, construction time and cost, and further changes to the initial effects. These can be useful in different situations, depending on your area and the scenario, but I basically chose them to combat problems in an area or push an area that's succeeding by increasing income. You can also switch their deployment whenever you want, so if an area requires more help, you can always just move someone over to fix it. And you can also recruit these guys as lords, but they are not much better than regular boyars aside from their traits, so I'd probably just keep them overseeing things. And their final mechanic is the Ice Court. Since ice and tempest magic are so complex and dangerous, the casters of these laws must train for several turns before becoming recruitable. To start this, you head to the Ice Court screen and click the plus icon for the lords or heroes. Over the course of the training, you will make certain choices which affect how the character will perform in certain areas. These are things such as the lore of magic they will be able to use, will they fight better or be more suited to the campaign map, will they buff cavalry, melee or ranged troops. Now it's nothing that's going to be disastrous if you choose the wrong option, but they can come in very useful, so be sure to future-proof yourself by picking choices that will work later in your campaign, rather than provide a quick fix now. We now come to the Lord skills. First up we have Tsarina Katerin. As for her skills, she has a fairly standard blue tree, so you want to go straight to that for all the usual campaign buffs. We're talking control, recruitment cost reduction, attrition reduction, and corruption reduction. Of course, we're doing all this so we can get lightning strike, but upkeep reduction and replenishment are just as valuable, and renowned and feared is never a bad thing. After this, you want to pick up pretty much all of her spells since the lore of ice is pretty cool and super duper powerful. Her Ice Mistress unique line is also really strong, and of course, unique to her, so worth picking up pretty much all of the skills here. Then you can go into the red tree to buff your endgame units and give them even more power, and finally you can close out on the top row by picking up a mount as well as missile resist and a snow leopard summon. Next we come to Kastaltin, and he has the exact same blue tree as Katerin, so you want to pick up pretty much all the same skills there. You then want to go into his For the People line, which is unique to him and contains bonuses for himself and patriarchs. Grab whichever of his battle pres you want before heading into the red tree to buff your key late game units. You can pick up some of his personal battle skills if you want to push him even further in combat, and finally you can close out in the top row with a mount, missile protection, a bound fireball spell, and possibly pick up Orthodoxy in action as it buffs some buildings but makes others much more expensive. And the final legendary lord, Boris Ursus, has the exact same blue tree as the others, so pick up all the same skills there. His Stout-Hearted line is unique to him and comes with some great buffs to his units and army, so it's worth picking up pretty much everything. His red tree of course has buffs for all units, so go with some for the late game. He's also a great choice for buffing in combat, so his yellow tree should absolutely see some love. And finally the top row has his unique mount, as well as some buffs to his leadership aura, an ability, a trade-off for less leadership for him and enemies, and faction-wide infrastructure. Our first non-legendary lord, the Boyars, have pretty much the same skill tree as Boris, but without his stout-hearted line and everything in his top row. Aside from that, you pretty much want to build them the same. Blue tree, into red tree, into yellow for some one-man army vibes, and finally into the top row for a mount and some extra buffs, and the ever-essential immortality. And our final lord, the Ice Witches, which you can pick up in either the Law of Ice or the Law of Tempest. These ladies have basically the same skill tree as Catherine, aside from they don't have her unique Ice Mistress line, but aside from that, you want to build them the same. Blue line, grab all the spells you want, and both laws are really great, so you can't go far wrong here. Red tree for endgame unit buffs, and top row for a mount, extra buffs, and of course, immortality. Now comes to the heroes, starting with the Patriarch. On the campaign map, these guys can damage buildings, wound enemy heroes, hinder replenishment, cleanse corruption wherever they go, and replenish troops when embedded in an army. Personally, I think that these guys should only really be used in armies since their campaign actions aren't really too useful. So with that in mind, we're only going to pick up replenishment in the blue line until much later when we come back for some corruption cleansing. After that, we want to pick up his battle prayers. I prefer Saliak's Lullaby for the unit healing, but by all means, follow your heart. Then, since you have no other choice, you're going to pick up some buffs to their combat capabilities, and you're probably going to end up picking up everything here eventually, so no need to be overly picky. Once you can, get to the corresponding skill for your chosen battle prayer to get even more value, and finally you can close in the top row with a mount as soon as you can, missile resist, and immortality as soon as possible. And our other heroes are the Ice Maidens, and of course can come in the Law of Ice or the Law of Tempest. On the campaign map, they can steal technology, assassinate enemy heroes, assault units, boost income locally, and provide scouting when embedded in an army. Now, these ladies can be used as campaign assassins or battlecasters. For the campaign, you of course want to stick in the blue tree and pick up everything but scouting, then waste points till immortality. For battlecasters, you want to go right into the spells and pick up everything you want from either of the very powerful laws. The only things you'll grab in the blue tree is income boosting, since you can't have too much cash, and scouting, since magical items never really hurt anyone. You can choose from one of the 5 skills unlocked at level 20, and honestly, they're all great choices, so I would just go with the one that works best for your playstyle. Personally, I quite like the Handmaidens for the cooldown reduction, but they are all valid choices. And of course, we close in the top row with a mount as soon as you can, as well as immortality, missile resist, and the Snow Leopard Summon. Now come to the commandments for Kislev. Awaken the Land grants 5% income from all local buildings. This one is of course useful for having when your province is sat doing nothing else, as you can always use more coin. The power of the church reduces the chances of plague spreading by 40% locally, and grants 2 to hero recruit rank, minus 25% to hero recruitment cost, and minus 5 corruption. This one is of course useful when plagues are hitting your lands or when you want to clear any corruption. Relief columns grants plus 2 to local recruitment capacity and minus 15% recruitment cost. Obviously, you want to use this for any recruitment to do it faster and cheaper. And finally, Purge the Steppes grants 4 control and minus 20% campaign move range for local enemy armies starting their turn in the region. This one is obviously great for boosting control as well as slowing down enemies in your lands. And finally we come to the research tree. Now the Kislev research menu is split into 4 separate trees. Each tree has multiple tiers, and you must complete a certain amount of research before unlocking the later ones. The land allows you to get straight to the highest tier as fast as you can research, but the other 3 also require you to own each of the 3 settlements they are named after. Aside from that, the trees are pretty straightforward, with buffs for military and infrastructure, as well as upgrading the Ice Court and the invocations of the Motherland. And that is everything you need to know about Kislev in the campaign. If you enjoyed this video, then consider leaving it a like, and of course subscribe to see more videos like this, including the Kislev Battle Guide, which is coming on Friday, so be very excited for that. Leave any questions you have in the comments below, and I'll answer them as best I can. I'd like to take this time to thank some supporters of the channel, like Dominic Shamas, and of course Henry Tucker, XJS, and Adam T for their support at the Unclean Ones tier. If you'd like to support the channel, you can become a member here on YouTube, a subscriber on Twitch, or a patron on Patreon. Doing so gets you shoutouts at the end of videos, like all of these lovely people. Huge thanks to all supporters, one final thank you for watching, and for now, I've been COLONELDAMNEDERS, and I will see you next turn.